Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of AlumTalk. Today we have with us our esteemed alumnus, Mr. Palash Shah from the batch of 2017-19, who's currently an associate at BNY. Let's get started.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. It's an absolute pleasure to host you at AlumTalk.
Thank you. Same
How are
here.
you feeling about being on campus after
I'm overwhelmed to come to this campus. Brings back a lot of good memories. But yeah, really nice to be back.
Since we students look up to you alumni, would you like to tell us about your career journey so far?
Sure. So I started at Axis Bank after SSBF, and I was there for 4 months, 4 odd months, and then was fortunate enough to make a jump to PNY, and I've been there for past 5 years, and that's about it.
Okay, perfect. And what is something valuable that you think you learned here at SSBF?
Okay, so I think all my corporate journey, right, at BNY specifically, because I was in an IB, and I am in an IB, and when you're fresher into such a complex role, all you gotta know is I mean you learn a lot of things on the job, but then there's prerequisites, right? Like if you understand the stuff that you're dealing with, and I'm eternally thankful to SSBF because of the curriculum that we have here. It's so robust, and I think I'm also preparing for my CFA. So level 1 and level 2 were already taken care of from what I've studied at SSBF back in 2019. So yeah.
Amazing. And is there something that you wish you had done differently?
Oh, probably, yeah. So there were a couple of certifications while I was at SSBF, and I think all of us from our batch took it way lightly, and we were like, who's gonna do it? No one knows it, right? But then, like looking back, I think it would have been nice if I had those.
Yes, it
So
adds
that's
to.
it adds a lot of value.
Yeah.
And although we as students sometimes discount the fact that oh it's not well known, but then those things keep on adding a lot of value is what I've learned from my experience.
Lessons learned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we students look up to you guys. Would you also like to tell us where do you see yourself 10 years down the line?
Uh, so I started as a relationship role in sales from SSBF, but then I moved on to BNY, and I'm now working in the LDI, so basically liability driven investments, which is niche pension fund market out of the UK, and I plan to stay there for a foreseeable future, but and probably excel in this role because there's a lot of untapped market and there's a lot of untapped opportunity in the US across the pond that the organization as such is exploring. So I think it's exciting times ahead, and I would like to just grow in my role here at where I am at the moment.
Can you throw some more light on what is LDI? Can you
All right. So LDIs are liability driven investments. So for example, if you are a person who's worked 60 years of your life, and from the 61st year when you retire, your organization gives you pension. That pensions are liability for your employer,
for the organization? Right.
for your employer, right? For the organization that you worked for. Now that liability, when you compound it with the number of employees that that company has, it's a huge sum, and it becomes very difficult for the company to pay you the pensions while maintaining the returns or maintaining the amount of profits that they're making. So what the companies do is they gauge the longevity you'll have, and then they make investments today at day zero, and they plan for when you will be 61. So we are investing basically all the pension fund monies, and because those are liability for the organization,
Yeah.
although it's a money that your employer has, but it's not really their money, it's your money which you will be getting when you will be 61.
So those would mature when the employees would retire.
When
Right?
the employee would retire, and then you would get it's basically a UK based product, but we've been looking forward to like take it to different markets. But yeah, it's a very niche pension fund product.
Right. So as you mentioned, certain certifications that we do here at SSBF and the other colleges, they add a lot to your knowledge as well as your resumes. So are there any certifications or skills that you think are must-haves for the industry right now?
Definitely. I think CFA is an evergreen thing, right? Like everyone talks about CFA, but I think nowadays what I've observed is even if you have the ESG certification from CFA,
Okay.
Just that alone would help you get job at any IB at the moment, because there's a hiring frenzy, I think, when everyone wants to hire people who know anything about ESG, because the market is very nascent, it's very new, and no one has any clue. Like even people who are working in ESG, they have no clue of what, because the regulation keeps on changing on a daily basis. So I think that certification alone could give someone brilliant edge. Like, because people, like, you go on LinkedIn, just type ESG and you'll see amount of jobs that are going in the ESG sector, and CFA ESG certification, it's not that difficult, it's very easy to, it's just one book, 600 pages.
We do have certain lectures where we cover ESG, and there's a Bloomberg certification that
Yep.
we all have to, we're all working on.
So Bloomberg certification was one of the reasons why I got my job.
Amazing. I
I,
think we're doing something right.
BMC, like I did it out of sheer curiosity, like what the hell is this thing?
So it
got
wasn't
like,
a requirement
it,
in
it
your
was a
case.
requirement. BMC was a requirement, but my BMC requirement came in second year, I think. But I had already done my BMC certification way before that. But it was not a requirement. But I was very curious about the terminals, what they are, how they work, and when those that became a requirement, everyone was like, क्यों करना है भाई क्या है? But then when you move out, right, when you move to these roles, these very niche roles where your whole life depends on a Bloomberg terminal, and you just viewing the screens day in and day out. So I think that particular thing I'm very grateful to.
So would you say that it is imperative you know how to use Bloomberg, at least the bits and pieces, at least
BMC gives you a basics of all the shortcuts.
Yes.
What Bloomberg can do. Like Bloomberg is it's a whale, right? Like there's so many things you
Yes.
could do in it, and of course you learn that on job, and each and every job would have its own set of requirements. But basics, again, basics, you should know how to log into a terminal, you should know where to put the security name, and everything else. Like anyone who's got to do anything with computers can navigate us way around, but I think it's basics that you need to understand, and I
Yes.
think that's what BMC does.
And what is something that SSBF can do to better prepare its students for the industry?
I mean, there's something that SSBF follows, which is comfort teaching, or some ridiculous word, I don't know, wherein students are not treated as students, rather they're treated as someone who's uplifted, right? Rather than categorizing and telling students, all right, what's wrong with you? You got to work on this. Rather than that, it's more or less like everyone goes around cribbing, like, I did not get this, I did not get that, but then did you work on that? So probably a reality check. So
Right.
just kidding. But I think SSPF as an institution, I think everything from a curriculum point of view and from a university point of view is bang on. And more sessions, I would say, 100% more sessions from industry people like we've had today.
Yes.
Those would be invaluable.
All right. And what are your thoughts on the current curriculum?
Oh, it's brilliant. I just went through it
Yes.
a few hours back, and it's brilliant. It's full fledged. Like people got on, but then again, I feel it's information overload as well, because students do not realize the importance of all these books and all these authors, everything. Like when I was studying, we had this book from John C. Hull on derivatives, and I was like, I'm not gonna read 2-3 thousand pages of book. But then we happened to just scroll past it, and now when I sit at my work, I remember all those things, right? Like options and futures, although they don't play that important part in the type of investing that I work in. But those things are like a callback, I think. So yeah,
So at least we should know the basics.
you should know the
right?
basics. Yeah, hands
Yes.
down.
Who are the three classmates that you still remember and why?
I remember a lot of my classmates, and I work with 5 or 6 of them in my team. But I think on top of my head would be my roommates, Jibin and Aniket, like brothers for life.
All right, amazing. What inspired you to stay connected to the alumni network?
You know what? When I came to SSBF, right, I had a startup, right, that did not work out. I was already 5 years into it, and then I was in between things, and I came here as a clueless guy who did not know anything. And in the 2 years that I was at SSBF, right, it repaid me thousand folds, and it's been doing that to this day in literal senses. So I mean, just that, right, it keeps bringing me back to the campus because I'm eternally grateful to it in true senses, because it's with me and as with a couple of my friends as well. Like, we know the true worth of what we were and what SSBF has done. Like my roommates I'm talking about, right? Like,
Yeah.
we understand
Yes.
what SSBF has done for us, because we've seen those times where everyone came from a diverse background, and it was like we were all lost. And 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 I always say, like, I was interacting with some of the people, and I say that it's a sensory overload when you come here, but then you gotta just relax, calm down, scratch the surface, and let itself reveal you. And there's a lot going on the campus, right? But then
Agreed.
it's just onto that particular individual how much you can absorb. Like,
Right.
it doesn't mean you should not have fun. Like, I think our batch had the most fun on the campus. We've done everything possible on the campus, but then there were times when you gotta get serious, right? And there's everything that you need for a good career at SSBF. And I wouldn't and also I was, while a couple of weeks back, I was just seeing all these uh, YouTube videos in SSBF, and I was like, doesn't make sense. Like, it's not the institution, but it's rather the students who make the institution, right? So it's the other way around, and it's epi, and that's the only thing. Like, I'm eternally grateful for SSBF for what it's done, and that what keeps bringing me back to the campus.
So I suppose we as students need to make the most of the 2 years that we spend here.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
These are the
And it's up to
golden
us.
years. It is up to you. It is up to the individual, because college as such has given you a very good curriculum. There are very good companies that are coming in. There are people from diverse backgrounds across campuses. Like, you've got your campus, SSBF, SIDM, this,
SIDTM.
a lot of colleges, right?
Yeah.
So when you
Yes.
interact with people, you develop your own personality, and that stands out.
So if you could relive one day from your life here at SSBF, which one would it be and why?
Okay, so the one day you know what, I remember the date. It was August the 3rd, 2018. And the reason I'd say is, like, so when I was here at SSBF, our hostel rooms was me, Jibin, Aniket in one room, and then I had best of my friends in just the other room. We all came out for our first placement interview with Access. All of us got selected,
Wow.
and I can just relive that moment ever and ever again, because the moment we went back to campus and the fun that we had, I mean, yeah, it was something.
Wow, that sounds exciting.
That's one day that I would want to relive again, because all of us were there in that celebration. Everything sort of worked out just fine that day.
All right. Thank you, sir. It was
Thank you
a
so
pleasure
much.
hosting
Thank
you
you
at
for having me.
AlumTalk. Thank you.
Thank you.